Welcome children to English class. Here I am going to begin chapter 7, The Necklace, from your supplementary reader, Footprints Without Feet book. Let's now begin the chapter. Let's gather the information about the author. Henri René Albert Guy de Maupassant was the French writer born on 5th August 1850. He is remembered as a master of the short story writer in the world. He was the representative of the naturalistic school of writers. He depicts human lives more often in the pessimistic terms. Many of his stories were written during the Franco-Prussian War of 1870s. He describes the futility of wars and violence that take thousands of innocent lives. He wrote some 300 short stories, 6 novels, 3 travel books, and 1 volume of words. Let's get the introduction to the story. The Necklace. The story revolves around a selfish lady named Matilda. She is unsatisfied with her life, so she wants to marry a rich husband. But as she belongs to the middle class family of clocks, so her family is unable to give the big dowry. So she is married to a clock. One day, both the husband and wife are invited to attend a party at the minister's house. But Matilda does not have the decent clothes and the jewels to attend the party. Then her husband suggests her to borrow the necklace from a friend and ask her to buy the dress. But what happens next in the story? It proves to be the lesson for this unhappy and the selfish lady. Let's now see. Let's understand the theme of the story. The story is a mild satire and carrying a strong message. It leaves a message. We should be satisfied what we are and what we have. False pride is the cause of all the sufferings of man. The loss of the false necklace by Mrs. Loisel was not a big loss. Things could have been rightly settled if she had confessed the loss of necklace to her friend, who was the real owner of the necklace. This small lapse or mistake of the lady makes her whole life miserable and dark. Thus, the irony lies here that all the cause of her sufferings was the loss of this false necklace. Hence, we learn that one should live within one's means. Otherwise, he or she would invite the useless problems, anxieties, and confusion, like Mrs. Loisel in her life. Children, it's turn to meet the characters of the story. You're going to meet 3 main characters in the story. First is Matilda Loisel, who is a pretty young woman and married to a clerk. She is dissatisfied what she has in her life. You will find her lost in her dreams of wealth and pleasures in the story. Second character is Loisel, who is the husband of Matilda and an ordinary clerk. He always tries to make his wife happy as he's a very caring and concerned husband. Next character is Madame Forestiers. She is the good friend of Matilda. She is quite helping and of considerate nature. She lends Matilda a necklace that in fact ruined the life of her friends. Let's now see. Let's now start the chapter, The Necklace. Matilda is invited to a grand party. She has a beautiful dress but no jewelry. She borrows a necklace from a friend and loses it. What happens then? As I've informed you, this is a story about Matilda Loisel, a middle class lady who desperately wished that she should be wealthy. She was very pretty and charming, but had the bad luck to be born into a family of clerks and married to another clerk. Though her husband, M. Loisel, was working as a clerk, but he tried to please the lady. Meager income was enough to fulfill the basic needs of his home, but failed to fulfill the aspirations of the lady. However, one, he tried to fulfill her wishes and aspirations of fine dining, expensive dresses, and jewels. The family had to pay a very high price. Let's now see. See the first paragraph? She was one of those pretty young ladies born as if through an error of destiny into a family of clerks. Error means mistake, destiny means fate or luck. Clerk is a person employed in an office or in bank to keep and maintain records. Here the story begins with a description about the main character, Matilda Loisel, who was a pretty young lady. It was told that this was the bad luck of this lady that she was born into the middle class family where all the family members were working as clerks. She had no dowry, no hopes, no means of becoming known, loved, and married by a man, either rich or distinguished, and she allowed herself to marry a petty clerk in the office of the Board of Education. Distinguished, that means famous or marked out. Petty, that means small, of least importance. Here it is explained as the family of Matilda did not have any source to arrange the big dowry for marrying her in the big family. She did not have any means by which she could be famous and being loved and married to a rich man. So, due to such circumstances, she had to finally marry to a clerk in the office of the Board of Education. She was simple, but she was unhappy. So, she had to live a simple life. That's why she was quite unhappy with her life because she used to think that destiny had been unfair to her and she deserved much better than that in the life. She suffered incessantly, feeling herself born for all delicacies and luxuries. Incessantly, that means without interruption, that means constantly. Delicacies, that means fineness or intricacy of texture or structure. Luxuries means comforts and riches. Due to all these false expectations and desires, she started now suffering herself continually. She had convinced her own mind that she was not born for such life, but she was meant to be rich and to enjoy the comforts and the wealth of the world. She suffered from the poverty of her apartment, the shabby walls, and the worn chairs. All these things tortured and angered her. Shabby means ugly and dirty. Worn, that means much used or old. Tortured means pained or anguished. Hence, looking at the poor economic condition of her own apartment, that means of a house, and dirty walls and torn and old furniture, she got angry. So, looking at the conditions of these things, she tortured her own mind, and without any reason, she became angry. One, she seated herself for dinner opposite her husband, who uncovered the tureen with a delighted ear, saying, "Oh, the good pot pie! I know nothing better than that." Tureen, it is a deep covered dish from which the soup is served. Pot pie, it is a savory pie baked in a deep dish. Here it is mentioned that during the time of dinner, the lady sat just opposite to the husband on the table. But the moment when her husband was going to open the homemade dish which was served in the simple dish, dish means plate, then he started praising the dish prepared by the lady. She would think of elegant dinners of shining silver. She thought of the exquisite food served in marvelous dishes. Elegant, that means graceful and stylish in appearance. Exquisite, that means marvelous or extremely beautiful and delicate. Marvelous means causing great wonder or something extraordinary. Dishes here stands for the serving plates made up of the silver metal. She ignored all his praise and got lost in her own daydreaming. She started thinking about the graceful and the stylish dinners in which the special and the extraordinary food and the meals are served in the wonderful and special dishes which were made of the shining silver metal. She had neither frocks nor jewels, nothing, and she loved only those things. As she did not have the beautiful dresses and the ornaments and had nothing such accessories, she loved all these things. Thus, she lost all her time in daydreaming and disappearing about such fabulous life which she never had in the present situation. She had a rich friend, a schoolmate at the convent, who did not like to visit. She suffered so much when she returned. Convent is a religious school run by the Christian community. Here it is to inform Matilda had a school friend whom she did not want to meet because of her richness. After meeting this girl, she used to suffer a lot because she was jealous to see the richness and luxurious life of this friend. She wept for whole days from despair and disappointment. Despair, that means hopelessness. Thus, after meeting her every time, she used to cry a lot the whole days at her own terrible conditions. She felt her life to be more miserable and hopeless. One evening, her husband returned, elated, bearing in his hand a large envelope. Elated, that means to be extremely joyful or happy. Here, next is informed, one evening when her husband came back home from his work. He was in a very joyful mood. He was holding an envelope in his hand. Here, he said, "Here is something for you." He called the wife and informed that he had brought something for the wife and asked this was specially for the lady and insisted her to open it. She quickly drew out a printed card on which were inscribed these words: "The Minister of Public Instruction and Madame George Ramponio as the honor of and Madame Loisel's company, Monday evening, January 18, at the minister's residence." Drew out, that means to take out. Inscribed, that means engraved. M stands for Mr. Otherwise, that stands for Monsieur in the French language. MME, that stands for Mrs. The lady quickly took out the printed card on which was engraved the information, that is, in fact, the invitation from the Director of Education. One, the lady quickly pulled out the invitation card. She was quite excited. She wanted to know what it was about. This was, in fact, an invitation from the minister. The couple had been invited to a dinner party at the house of the Minister of the Public Instruction. Instead of being delighted, as her husband had hoped, she threw the invitation spitefully upon the table, murmuring, "What do you suppose I want with that?" Delighted means happy. Spitefully, that means full of hatred. Murmuring, that means muttering or to say something in low or indistinct continuous sound. Though the husband, Mr. Lawson, was expecting the lady would be very delighted on getting this invitation, but she got really angry and threw the card while murmuring something in the low voice. So, thinking about her poverty, she asked her husband what did he want her to do with the card, as she won't be able to attend such a big function. "But, my dearie, I thought it would make you happy. You never go out, and this is an occasion, and a fine one." To this he replied he was expecting his loving wife would become quite pleased to get such a nice invitation. Really, it was a good occasion. Everybody wishes one, and it is very select. Not many are given to employees. You will see the whole official world there. He further added that on this rare occasion, not so many employees had been invited. That means it was given to very selected workers of his department. He also informed that it was a good chance that the lady would be able to meet a lot of people from his office. So it was the rare opportunity to meet the good people in such a nice function. She looked at him with an irritated eye and declared impatiently, "What do you suppose I have to wear to such a thing as that?" Irritated, that means to be offended or to get angry. Impatiently, that means restlessly. Hence, getting more angry and restless, she replied to the husband what he was expecting that his wife would wear in such a grand party. He had not thought of that. He stammered, "Why, the dress you wear when we go to the theatre. It seems very pretty to me." Loisel, the husband, had never assumed of declining any invitation or the function. So he suggested the lady, but with hesitation, why she was not wearing the dress which she used to wear to watch the theatres. He said that he liked that dress very much. He was silent, stupefied in dismay. At the sight of his wife weeping, he stammered, "What is the matter? What is the matter?" Stupefied, that means to be stunned or to make unable to think or feel properly. Dismay, that means concern and distress caused by something unexpected. Stupefied, that means stunned. Dismay, that means full of grief. However, at this suggestion, suddenly Matilda started now crying bitterly. Now, to see this condition of the wife, Loisel suddenly became quite stunned and full of grief. He again inquired, stammering, from the wife what was the matter, why she was crying. By a violent effort, she had controlled her vexation and responded in a calm voice, wiping her moist cheeks. "Nothing, only I have no dress, and consequently I can't go to this affair." Vexation, that is the state of being annoyed or angry. Moist means wet. Somehow the lady controlled her feelings of anger, but for this she had to put much effort. Then, calming down herself and clearing the tears from her wet cheeks, she replied back to the husband calmly that it was nothing matter. The only problem was about the party dress. So, as a result, she could not attend such a grand party. Give your card to some colleague whose wife is better fitted out than I. So, she suggested to the husband that he should give away his card to some of his friend or colleague whose wife was better fitted for this function or program than her. He was grieved but answered, "Let us see, Matilda, how much would a suitable costume cost? Something that would serve for other occasions, something very simple." Grieved, that means to feel intense sorrow or sadness. However, the husband was very disturbed to see this terrible condition of the wife. So he asked her the cost of the simple party dress which could be used to wear at the other occasions as well. She reflected for some seconds, thinking of a sum that she could ask for without bringing with it an immediate refusal and a frightened exclamation from the economical clerk. Economical, that means the person who is careful in spending. Now, at this, Matilda started thinking for few seconds for the amount that would neither be refused by the husband nor affect the economic condition of her poor clerk husband. Finally, she said in a hesitating voice, "I cannot tell exactly, but it seems to me that 400 francs ought to cover it." Francs is the basic monetary unit. That means the currency notes of France, Belgium, Switzerland, Luxembourg, and several other countries. However, finally, Matilda replied, though she was not exactly sure about the amount of the party dress, but she would be able to manage the dress within 400 francs. He turned in a little pale, for he had saved just this sum to buy a gun that he might be able to join some hunting parties the next summer with some friends who went to shoot larks on Sunday. Nevertheless, he answered, "Very well, I will give you 400 francs, but try to have a pretty dress. Pale means felt pale. Lark stands for skylarks. So these birds are famous for shooting in France. At first, when the husband heard this big amount for the party dress, he felt reluctant and weak as he had saved that much amount to buy a gun for himself so that he could join the hunting parties next summer along with his friends. But, however, to please his wife, he got agreed to pay this big amount too, but also insisted the lady to buy a fine party dress for the function. For all your doubts and queries, you can make call or text me. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you have well understood the explanation.